Okay, let's talk about the WFP Final Project Scoring Guide. So this is the document that'll be used to score your final project. And just want to go through here quickly and make sure the items on here are clear. And make sure that you know that you can use this as a checklist of sorts to make sure you have what you need for your project. So it's split up into different sections. The first of the sections right here, this is your title slide. So this will be slide number 1 in your presentation. You want to make sure it has these 4 items, okay, an appropriate and creative title, includes your lab group number, all your members' names, and has an appropriate theme, meaning that the colors, the background, all relates to Wisconsin fast plants or to what you did in your experiment. The second piece of this, these would become your second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth slides. So these are slides 2 through 6, and we want to make sure that slide number 2 answers what was your group's original question. What was it you're trying to answer by doing this experiment? Slide number 3 should answer what was your hypothesis, your if then because statement. The next slide, this would be slide number 4, what were the control variables? So what were the variables that you kept the same between your experimental and your control groups? The next slide, slide number 5, what was the experimental variable? So what was the one thing that you changed? What was the one thing that you made different between your experimental and control groups? And then slide number 6, how did you test the hypothesis? Basically speaking, what did you do? How did you test? What did your experiment look like to make this happen? Each of these then are worth 2 points for a total of 10. The next section, we're looking for, do you have at least 2 appropriately constructed graphs? And so this would be slide number 7 and slide number 8 if you did just 2 graphs. And what we're looking for here are graphs that relate to your data in some way and that help you make your point about what happened in your presentation. These might be things that help support your results or help support your hypothesis. And of course, you want to keep in mind things you learned in topic 19, things like the dot plot, the box plot, the bar graph, the line graph, whatever is appropriate in order for you to get your point across. And then the next part of this, the conclusion slide, this would be, of course, slide number 9 if you had done 2 graphs. This is where you want to make sure you talk about these 2 points. Discuss your group's original experimental question and your hypothesis, and then related to that, was the hypothesis supported by the data? Why or why not? So in other words, did the results of your experiment support your original prediction? In other words, did you predict something that actually ended up happening, or did you predict something and the results happened completely different? So that would be what we want you to talk about on your conclusion slide. Your next slide, slide number 10, would be your MYP inquiry question slide. So in this, we're asking you to go back to our original guided focus question at the beginning of the unit. To what extent would my life be different without plants? And we want you to use the global context, globalization and sustainability. So think about this question in terms of that lens. And a hint would be to think about how people and plants are connected as you answer this question. Don't give us just the obvious. We've discussed many times that without plants, life as we know it wouldn't be here on the earth. But it's important that you answer this and give me some other specifics and more detail about why it is we wouldn't be here, if that's the way you want to answer that question. And then moving on, the next part of the rubric, your presentation, we want to make sure that you yourself did your role, fulfilled all your responsibilities in the presentation. Meaning, did you do the slides you were responsible for during the verbal presentation? Did you actually speak and do your part to make the presentation a complete success? And then last but not least here, did your presentation as a group last at least 4 to 5 minutes? That gives us a total of 40 points for that part of the project and the presentation. And then other items we're going to be looking for worth another 15 points would be proper capitalization of titles. So on your slides, did you properly capitalize your titles? Are you using complete sentences throughout your presentation? And are you using proper grammar and spelling? That gives us an additional 15 points for a total of 55 points for this project. So that's the layout of the rubric. Hopefully you can use this as a a guide and a checklist as you create your presentation, but it's also the document that will be used to score it in the end. So best of luck, and let's get working.